A hush lives beneath the stone. It is not the hush of peace. It is the hush of weight, granite above, granite below, snow packed tight like old wool in the creases of the slope. The sleeping shape tucked beneath the overhang does not stir with the first light, because there is no first light, not here. Not in this cold wrinkle of the earth where breath turns silver and hangs, waiting. He stirs only when the wind shifts. Not much, just the skin of it, a change in pressure. A molecule turned wrong. He lifts his head without sound. The shape is massive, but compact, curled, like something fossilized and forgotten, then exhumed with care. Now, movement. Thick-furred limbs uncurl, arms longer than a man's. The fingers move first, slow, deliberate, feeling the air for change. The eyes do not blink. They catch no light. They are black and reflective as ice water in a cave. He rises. 9 feet of muscle wrapped in matted, dark fur. One side of his back is flecked with pine needles. His chest expands, pulling in breath, not for air, for scent. He sniffs once, moss, lichen, rabbit urine. Old bear scat, faded by 2 moons. Melt water beneath the stone. No men. Not here. The Bigfoot steps forward without a sound. His foot, wide and padded like a snowshoe, presses into crusted frost without breaking it. He passes beneath a low-hanging branch without brushing it. The forest does not know he has moved. He does not think in words. He does not know the name of the month, or the name of the trees, or his own name, because names are not true. What is true is this: the ground breathes deeper today. The cold is returning. Something small died nearby. Not recently, but soon enough that it matters. He kneels by the streamstone where he always kneels, not out of ritual, but because the stone fits his hand. He touches it once. It is warm beneath the frost. That is not right. It rained last night, then froze again. This should be cold. The earth remembers heat. He listens. Far above, a hawk's wing splits the air. Not a cry, just a movement. He turns his head toward it, watches, tracks the shape until it vanishes behind tree line. Then he stands. The wind shifts again, only slightly, but enough to carry something from the south. He goes. South is not a direction to him. It is the place where the crow lives, where the dead tree leans, where the bear went blind last winter, where the Black River runs under the ice. South is memory. He does not forget paths. He forgets nothing. He walks slowly at first, then faster, all but soundless, into the pines. A sharp wind cuts across the tree line, scuffing powder off the evergreens. It moves the way hunger moves, fast, scraping, uninvited. The Bigfoot stands at its edge and lets it pass through his fur, his skin, the memory of his bones. The ice crust across the open meadow is thin, deceptive. A deer might break it. A man surely would. But he glides over it without sound. Each step lands like a breath on glass. To his left, a hawk circles, the same one from earlier or not. He does not wonder. He watches. The bird's cry echoes down the slope and is answered by silence. Everything below ground stays still. A vole holds its breath. A snake curls tighter beneath the frost. He kneels briefly, places one wide hand to the ice. The ground is murmuring. He does not hear it, not as sound, but he feels it like pressure against the ribs. There are no earthquakes, no caves collapsing. But something is moving beneath the normal rhythm of things, a wrongness with no shape. The forest is not afraid. It is uncertain. He rises and moves on. Half a mile farther, just before the glade drops into a gully, he pauses beside the broken skeleton of a spruce. Lightning took it 2 summers ago, cracked it clean down the center and scorched the roots. The blackened wood still smells faintly of carbon and storm. He circles the trunk once, slow. The bark flakes under his hand. There, near the base, scat. Not fresh, lynx, wounded, female, limp in her left side. He knows her by scent. They've shared kills before, not together, but in sequence. He closes his eyes, nostrils flaring. Pine sap, lynx blood, wind-burnt lichen, an old kill. Nothing human. Not yet. The lynx is close, but he does not seek her. She would not fear him, but she would not come close. She knows him in the way the forest knows fire, a thing that happens without warning, without negotiation. His breath plumes in the cold and vanishes. He lowers himself slowly onto his haunches, elbows resting on his knees, spine curved like a ridge in the earth. He waits. Not for something to happen, but because something already has, and he is trying to listen to its echo. A crow passes overhead. It does not call. He does not move. The glade is sunk between 2 low ridgelines, a natural bowl crusted with old snow and rimmed by dark firs. The pines here grow close together, and the wind doesn't reach the floor. All sound drops away, even his footfalls, even the whisper of his breath. This is a place where things end. The elk died in a shallow ditch against a slope of rotted stone. Its skeleton is clean in places, fur still clinging to some joints in curled, sun-hardened tufts. The skull lies sideways, jaw open, one antler sunk into the dirt as if stabbed into the ground at the moment of death. He crouches over it, still as a statue. One long hand hovers over the ribs, not touching yet. He sniffs once. Wolves. The dominant scent. 3 of them. 1 female, 1 young. He knows them, not their names, but the story of their scent. They fed for hours and came back the next day. They left in no hurry. Fox, weeks later. Ate little. Marked nothing. Coyote. Gnawed the bones in boredom, not hunger. Rot. From within. Liver spoiled before death. Then, he draws his hand closer. A faint wrinkle appears in his brow. Man. Faint. 2 kinds, 1 older, 1 newer. 1 brushed past long after the death, curious. The other was closer, nearer to the time of the wolves. He sniffs again, slower. Not just man, something else. Oiled metal, burnt stone, a sharp, black smell. Not smoke, not fire. Something artificial. It lingers in the marrow. Not enough to kill, but enough to taint. He presses 2 fingers to the broken rib. His hand is enormous, fingers thick and calloused, nails black and dulled like old obsidian. The bone wobbles slightly under his touch, snapped, not chewed, not by teeth. He leans down, breath steaming over the bones, eyes narrowing. He does not look for answers. He looks for the truth of the moment. Something made this animal die badly. The wolves only came after. He opens his mouth slightly, breathes deep through both nostrils. The cold air trembles in his chest. Gunpowder, not fresh, but old enough to be real. He rises slowly, joints silent. His arms hang loose at his sides, fingers flexing once. His head turns toward the west, toward where the smell is strongest. Beyond the ridge, beyond the stone, beyond the line of the trees. He does not growl, he does not rage. His kind are not made of that, but his shoulders shift. His silence becomes sharper. He moves on. The elk bones lie behind him now, half covered in powder. The scent lingers in his chest, an aftertaste, sour and metallic. He climbs out of the glade without sound. His back brushes a snow-laden branch, and the snow falls in a sheet, not on him, but beside him. He pauses, watches it settle. The sky has gone pale, a heavy white, the color of bone soaked in fog. The wind is slower here, thicker. Something shifts in the forest's rhythm. Above, a crow flaps from one pine to another. It passes directly overhead, wings wide, feathers ragged from winter storms. It does not call. That silence says more than any cry. The Bigfoot halts halfway up the slope. His head turns. Southeast. Where the sun would rise if the clouds broke. Where the trees thin and the old shale cliffs give way to younger, softer earth. Where the scent of man came from. He stays still for a long moment. Not afraid, not confused. Simply listening. The ground here says nothing. No vibration of hooves. No skitter of rodent claws. No wind. But beneath that, nothing. He senses watching. Not from a place, not from a creature. A kind of presence. He has felt it before, years ago. The same season, the same direction. It is not a thing with eyes. It is not a thing with scent. It is something that leaves behind tools and changes the earth. Something that walks like a predator but hides like prey. Something that stinks of metal, ash, and noise. He does not know the word man, but he knows the feel of it in his lungs. He knows it as a wrong note in the song of the forest. He rises to his full height, massive, towering, fur ruffling in the slow wind. His breath curls from his mouth like steam from a cave. Then, with the stillness of something carved from the stone itself, he turns southeast. He begins to walk. Not quickly, but directly. He does not track. He does not hunt. He does not flee. He moves to know. The snow thins near the ridge. It gives way to a brittle skin of black earth. No moss, no needles, no breath. Just ash and dust, layered deep between twisted roots. The wildfire that came through here did not rage. It crept. It starved the soil and stayed. Trees that survived stand naked and gray, hollowed by smoke. The rest are stumps and splinters, sunken deep into the bone-colored slope. The Bigfoot steps into the burn with caution. His kind avoids open ground. Too exposed, too loud. But the scent draws him forward. Human. 3 distinct trails, 2 with long strides. 1 heavier, dragging the left foot, older or injured. They are not hunters. Their clothes smell of fabric and oil, not blood or bait. One uses aftershave. The other chews something, bitter, fibrous, spat onto the ground. He smells it still in the air, dried spit, laced with chemicals. He kneels in the ash. His massive hand hovers over a boot print, presses down beside it for comparison. Smaller than his own, deeper. The man walked with weight and purpose, not running, not afraid, not lost. He leans lower, nostrils twitching. Tobacco, metal, ink. One of them carries paper, stiff and coated, with that strange dry smell. The same paper he found once before, years ago, near the river where they camped. The men like to draw the land, not see it, but trap it, flatten it. He raises his head. The world here is too loud with silence. Every breath, every step. It echoes through nothing. No birds, no underbrush, no water. He doesn't like this place. Even now, years after the fire, it remembers screaming. He rises and moves on, careful to place his feet where the ground still holds together, where the cinders haven't turned to black mud. At the top of the slope, the wind changes again. Stronger, pulling southeast. The scent thickens. He follows. The slope falls away into a shallow, ashen basin, not natural, not shaped by time or ice, but cut, measured, boxed, lines. He sees them before he steps down. A crude, strange geometry. Thin wooden stakes punched into the earth at intervals. Each bears a ribbon of bright color, orange, yellow, pink, all too loud for a forest. They flicker in the wind like the tongues of dying things. He doesn't descend quickly. He watches first. The cloth makes no sound, but it moves like prey, jerking, twisting, snapping as the breeze catches it. It offends him in a quiet way. These markers are not food, not shelter, not warning, not truth. They are something else. He descends into the basin, one slow step at a time. The stakes are short, knee-high to him, pushed deep, not hammered. No stone around the base. Just a stab into the ground, clean and precise. He crouches beside the nearest one. Sniffs. Human sweat. Hand grease. Birch sap. He tilts his head. Then he grips the stake. His hand closes around it easily. He doesn't pull. Not at first. He waits. Listens. It doesn't speak. It doesn't resist. It doesn't matter to the forest at all. But it matters to him. He pulls. The wood comes free with a soft pop. Dirt clinging to the base in dark clumps. It smells like opened earth, a thing that was meant to stay sealed. He holds the stake in front of him, sniffs the ribbon once, then brings the base of the stick near his face and examines the dirt still clinging there. He grunts, a low, chest-deep exhale. Then he snaps it in two with one quiet motion. The splinters fall at his feet. He doesn't bury them. He doesn't scatter them. He walks on. Behind him, the bright ribbons flutter once more, now on broken stakes. Markers turned meaningless. The forest does not notice. But he does. The scent trail thickens as he passes into the next hollow, a natural depression ringed with brush and crushed shrubs. The snow is trampled here, churned down to blackened dirt in a tight circle. The earth is scuffed with boot prints. The edges of the area are packed hard from pacing. He stops at the perimeter, lets the air settle in his lungs. 3 men, 1 fire, short-lived, no kill, no skinning, not a hunter's rest, not a trapper's lean-to. This is different. He steps inside the circle. On the ground, a square of black oilcloth, weighted with a smooth river stone. On it, a crumpled thermos, dented and stinking of old coffee. Beside that, paper, smeared with grease, one corner torn and missing. He crouches low, breathing through his nose. Coffee, sour meat, chewing tobacco, soap, human oil. But there's something more. Faint, dry, structured. The paper is dense, treated, not for warmth or story, for marking. He does not know its name, but he knows its smell. It is the smell of the same paper he found once, years ago, when he watched men plant red flags beside a river and trace lines in the dirt with sticks. That paper had lines. So does this one. Faded, cross-hatched, thin blue ink, a system that is not felt, but imposed. He doesn't know the meaning, but the meaning presses against him anyway. They are trying to trap the shape of the land, to take it, fold it, measure it into obedience. He snorts once, then tilts his head at a new scent on the wind. Iron, faint and metallic. Not blood, not rock. Something shaped, a tool or a blade. It isn't here, but it was. He looks down at the paper, then picks it up. It flaps once in his grip, edges limp. He brings it close to his face, breathes in the scent of ink and oil. His lip curls back slightly, not in anger, but in recognition. He crushes the paper into a ball and sets it on the stone. He does not burn it. That would be loud. He simply leaves it. The forest should not have blue lines. The broken camp behind him, the Bigfoot pauses beneath the thin reach of a jack pine, one hand resting against the trunk. The air here feels hung, like something waiting to be finished. Above him, a faint stir, feathers, a drift of sound like parchment torn slowly. He tilts his head back. A raven perches just overhead, wings folded, talons curled around a dead branch. Its eyes are black, bead bright. It does not move, does not call, does not fear. They look at each other in stillness. The Bigfoot remains motionless. The bird does not flinch. This is not the first raven he has seen. They follow what matters. Not meat, not nests, events. This one is old. Its left wing droops slightly when it breathes. The scar in its beak is faint, healed long ago, a mark from another winter. He remembers it. A watcher. They share the space for a long moment, the wind drawing through the bones of the trees. Then the raven shifts, hops once along the branch, and launches. Not into the wind, not toward food, but south. Low, just above the burnt canopy, black wings slipping between the charred trees like smoke. He watches it until the forest swallows it. Then he turns and follows. Not because the bird beckoned, not because of the markers, or the stakes, or the torn paper, but because everything, the sense, the silence, the pressure beneath the soil, has pointed in that direction. The trail ahead is not just a scent path. It is a question. And the forest does not answer questions. It remembers them. The trees change before the light does. He feels it in the bark. Thicker, wetter, older. The air folds differently around these trunks. The wind doesn't push here. It curves. It hushes. Sounds don't echo in this place. They soak. Fallen leaves aren't brittle but soft, heavy with rot. A mushroomed log breaks underfoot like wet bread. The Bigfoot moves through this terrain slower. Not for caution, for respect. His footfalls press into moss as deep as his knuckles. The ferns here are thick and colorless, pale green, veined like skin. Overhead, the branches lock together in a tangled roof. Sunlight doesn't fall. It trickles. No paths. He doesn't need one. He turns when the crooked cedar root appears, arched like a bent claw over a shale outcrop. He brushes his hand along it in passing. It's cold, like bone left in water. Below this rise lies the river hollow. The birds here still speak, not alarm calls, not warning shrieks like those near man camps. These calls are ordinary, grounded, wren song, short and rhythmic. A gray jay clucks from high above and goes back to grooming. The land here doesn't know what's coming, but he does. The forest floor dips and the air grows damper. He smells lichen, wet bark, and something else. A scent that doesn't belong to any one thing. Memory, not his alone. The land's. He lowers his head and begins to move down the ridge in slow, deliberate steps, one hand dragging along a trunk as wide as a canoe. Below, through the underbrush and mist, he sees the shape forming. A towering cedar, old as rock, hunched into the bend of the river, its bark peeled and curled like bark paper, its trunk split into 3 jagged limbs, like broken antlers turned skyward. He stops, not out of awe, but out of recognition. The remembering tree waits. The cedar is not the tallest tree in the hollow, but it is the only one that leans inward, as if listening to its own roots. Its bark is thick and spiraled, warped by centuries of storm and frost. Fissures run along its sides like old scars. Moss hangs from its limbs, long and gray, shivering without wind. Beneath it, the soil is soft and dark, pressed with the prints of animals long gone. He approaches slowly, not out of reverence, but because this tree is never surprised. He steps beneath its limbs and feels the air change. Cooler, denser, every scent stills. Even the birds fall quiet above. He places one hand on the trunk. His palm spreads across the bark. Thick fingers splayed wide, his knuckles brushing over ridges grown long before he was born. And then he listens, not for sound, but for the weight of what has passed here. It comes like scent, but deeper, not in his nose, but in his ribs. It blooms behind the eyes, under the tongue. The tree holds layers. Blood, sharp and hot in spring grass. A bear, lowing as it died, alone beneath rain. Wolves pacing in fog, teeth bared not in hunger, but in courtship. A man's bootprint, soft in the mud. Smoke, tobacco, not fire, just warmth. And silence, not empty, shared. He breathes once. The memories are not stories. They do not unfold. They exist. He steps back slightly, eyes flicking along the thick curve of the trunk, then up toward the broken crown, where one of the limbs sheared off in a winter storm, long ago. The cedar feels tight, not afraid, but alert. Its roots cling harder to the stone than before. The ground around it has shifted. He feels it, a new pressure below, not deep, but close. Something subtle has been disturbed. He moves one hand to the base, presses his knuckles against the dirt between 2 large roots. The soil gives slightly, moist, but trembling, as if something heavy presses from a distance. The tree is not in pain, but it is listening too, waiting. The river slides past the cedar's roots like a muscle under skin, strong, silent, always moving. It's not deep, but fast. A narrow glacial stream, fed by meltwater from the far peaks. The surface runs clean, dotted with needles, bark scraps, and the occasional leaf turned to leather by the cold. He crouches low, dipping one hand beneath the surface. The cold bites into his fingers, but he does not flinch. His skin can feel through cold. It listens better that way. He cups the water, brings it to his mouth, sniffs, tastes, and stops. There's something beneath the clarity. Not foul, not rot, not blood, just wrong. It's not strong. Not enough to stop a deer from drinking, not enough to kill. But it's there. A note that doesn't belong in the chord. A sharpness behind the cold. He lowers his hand back into the current and leaves it there. Still, letting the water move through his palm, around his wrist, up his arm in a faint vibrating pull. It's not natural. It's not rhythm. It's repeat. A faint pulsing push, subtle, steady, artificial, not alive, not part of the river's body. Something upstream is pressing into the current in the same pattern, again and again. A beaver dam would slow the water, change its flow. A rockfall would disrupt, scatter. This does neither. It pushes, lightly but consistently, as if some part of the land has been pinned. His brow tightens, his nostrils flare. The vibration is not a sound, but it has weight. He feels it in his teeth. He withdraws his hand and watches the river flow past. His eyes lift to the south. Whatever presses into the water is not a creature. It is not made of bark or tooth or claw. It is man-shaped, and it does not belong here. He lowers himself into the crook between the cedar's roots, where the moss holds the warmth of sun long gone. The bark curves around his shoulders like a spine, old and unbending. He does not close his eyes. His kind never truly sleeps, not near running water. But his body softens, his chest slow with breath. And the memory comes, not summoned, not chosen. It arrives the way weather does, already there before he knows it. The same river, different season, late spring. The cedar was fuller then, weighed with sap and birdsong. The air smelled of wet bark and violets, and black mud stirred up from a passing moose. He had come to drink. He knelt in the shallows, scooping water with one hand while the other traced the smooth spine of a flat stone. And then, a new vibration. Not water, not elk, not wolf. Man. He turned without urgency. A figure stepped into view at the river's edge, boots silent in mud, coat worn but clean. A younger man then, taller than most, broad across the chest, moving like someone who knew the land's shape before maps tried to flatten it. Clyde Turnbuckle. He stopped short when he saw the Bigfoot. There was no panic, no grasp for the rifle slung across his back. Just the stillness of a creature who had learned a long time ago that surprise is not the same as danger. They stared at each other across the current, not moving, not posturing. The birds did not flee. The river did not rush faster. The moment stretched, not because it needed to, but because neither of them ended it. Then Clyde shifted his weight slowly and said nothing. He dipped his head just slightly, not a nod, but something older, and turned, walked upriver, never looked back. The Bigfoot watched him until the trees took him. Now, beneath the cedar, that moment presses into him again, not as warmth or fear or curiosity, but as recognition. There are men who come to take. There are men who measure. And there are men who see. He has only ever seen one of the last kind, and it has always been enough. It comes with the wind, not strong, not sharp, just enough. A dry heat against the cold, the ghost of burnt leaf and dark wood. It moves low, curled like fog between roots and stones. Tobacco. But not cigarette, not chemical. This is something older. Packed by hand, smoked slow. Cut with cedar oil, cured in canvas. The Bigfoot's nostrils flare once. His stride pauses, left foot mid-air, as if the scent reached up and held him still. He knows it. It doesn't just smell like now. It smells like before. He closes his eyes. Canvas, sweat, iron shavings in old pockets, boots that carried a man across the land without bending it too far. That particular human scent that's never afraid of the cold. Clyde Turnbuckle. The Bigfoot lowers his foot softly and turns toward the wind. He moves through the underbrush at half speed, not because he fears being seen, but because he doesn't want to arrive yet. He wants to feel the moment stretch. The forest accepts this. No bird gives alarm. The ground grows firmer beneath his steps. Older roots, deeper stone. Then, faint but real, a rhythm. Bootsteps, two-legged, heavy, deliberate. Not clumsy, familiar. He leans his shoulder against the trunk of a narrow birch, nostrils flaring again. Yes, wool coat, old pipe, flint and wood smoke, metal buckles, wind-worn leather. Clyde hasn't changed much. The Bigfoot feels no surprise. Clyde has always moved like a creature who would come back to a place when it needed looking after. He angles down toward the river bend, not directly, not quickly, but with intention. His chest is still, his breath low. He is not stalking. He is joining. The trees thin where the river bends. There's a natural clearing here, not made by man. A patch of stony sand swept flat by spring floods, ringed with alder and birch. A half-rotted log lies split near the water's edge, hollowed by insects. It smells of age. And there, framed against the silver-gray flow, Clyde Turnbuckle. Older now, not broken, not soft, just weathered. His frame is leaner, skin drawn tight around jaw and brow. His wool coat hangs loose from the shoulders, one sleeve patched with mismatched cloth. The pipe in his mouth draws slow, ember glow flashing as he inhales, then fades as he exhales a curl of smoke into the cold air. He holds a walking stick more than he uses it. His boots are muddy. One cuff is unbuttoned. The Bigfoot watches him from the tree line, no more than 40 paces away, tucked behind a stand of fur. He knows Clyde has not seen him, but he knows, too, that Clyde knows he is here. There's a certain shape to a man's stance when he's pretending not to notice, a looseness in the shoulders, a slowness in the hands. Clyde isn't acting like a man alone. He's acting like a man on old ground. Clyde kneels at the river's edge. His joints crack audibly, a sound the Bigfoot registers not as weakness, but time. He scoops water into one hand, sips from it, makes a face like he always did, the slight grunt, the head tilt, the muttered breath through his teeth. Then he speaks, not loud, not demanding, just a rough sentence tossed like a stone into still water. "Still here, ain't you?" He doesn't turn. The Bigfoot does not answer. He remains still, crouched low, massive hands resting palm down on the cold earth. But in his chest, something stirs. Not fear, not recognition, just the quiet, ancient tension of two creatures who have passed through many winters without forgetting each other. Clyde taps out the pipe into his palm, shakes loose the ashes, and pockets the bowl. He doesn't say anything else. He just sits on the log, folds his hands over the stick across his knees, and gazes out across the river. Not searching, not watching, just sharing. He stays still for a long time. The Bigfoot's weight is evenly balanced between his feet and the knuckles of his hands, his knees bent slightly, spine curved forward, like something not quite sitting, not quite ready to rise. His breath is even. His eyes unmoving. Watching Clyde, not because Clyde is dangerous, but because everything about him is deliberate. The way he sets his stick across his lap like an old sword. The way he exhales smoke not into the air, but toward the river, letting it drift, letting it pass. The way he touches the ground every few minutes, as if checking whether the forest still holds beneath him. The Bigfoot remembers that. Clyde has always been like that, a man who listens with his hands. He watches the way Clyde leans forward now, elbows on knees, head down. His eyes are half-lidded but not closed. His boots are planted flat. One toe flexes against the mud. Slow, rhythmic, not nervous, present. Clyde draws a line in the dirt with his thumb, the kind of gesture a man might do without thinking. But there's no map, no compass, just soil and skin and thought. The Bigfoot doesn't blink. He sees the small things. A crow feather tucked behind Clyde's belt loop, a tear in the shoulder seam of his coat, the pipe ash clinging to the corner of his beard. No other man has ever left this much of himself in the open. No other man has ever looked this at peace with not being alone. Still, the Bigfoot doesn't reveal himself. There's no need. The moment already holds both of them. Birdsong returns faintly, a single whistle from deep in the brush. The river hums over stone. Clyde rolls his neck once and settles deeper into the seat. And the Bigfoot just watches. Not for behavior, not for change, but for continuity. The same rhythm he remembered from long ago, still present, still true. The kind of man the forest does not need to warn him about, because the forest has already made room for him. The light shifts again, the pale silver of late afternoon beginning to pull long shadows through the trees. Clyde stirs. He grunts softly as he stands, joints popping, spine slow to unfold. He brushes the dirt from his coat with both palms, slow circles across the cloth, the way an old man straightens himself before walking into a room that isn't his. He picks up the walking stick, checks the tip where it's worn flat. Then he turns, not toward the river, not toward the trail behind him, but slightly sideways, toward the thickest part of the trees, toward the Bigfoot, but not at him, just to the space he occupies. And then, just once, Clyde lifts his chin, not in salute, not in warning, but like a man catching a breeze and deciding it's time to move. That's all. No words, no gestures, just the acknowledgement of shared ground. He steps back from the stump, boots slow but steady, and walks north. No compass, no rifle in hand, just the quiet rhythm of someone who's walked these woods long enough to know where not to put his feet. The Bigfoot watches him go, waits, then he rises, and follows, not close, not so near as to be heard or seen, but always with one foot in Clyde's prints, matching his pace, moving just behind the memory of a path, never catching up, never separating. They walk like that for a long time. Two figures in the same woods, two shapes of different myths. No chase, no bond, just the kind of coexistence that never asked permission and never needed to. He hears them before he smells them. The wind is wrong today, cutting low, then curling upward through the rocks like steam. It doesn't carry scent the way it should, but it carries sound, human sound. Not walking, not hunting, talking, not like Clyde. Clyde doesn't fill the air with noise. These voices come in sharp bursts, bouncing off trees like thrown stones. One of them is singing, badly, a broken tune, off-key and with no rhythm. Another curses every few words, not in anger, but like a man trying to prove he's awake. The third is quiet, but his feet drag through the brush, careless, heavy, like he doesn't know the forest has a floor. The Bigfoot stops moving. He sinks low between two spruce trees, one hand pressed to the ground. Feels nothing urgent in the soil. No fear, no blood, just disruption. The air ahead is warmer, flattened, leaves turned upside down by boots, not wind. He moves toward it without a sound. Up the ridge, then down a shelf of rock slick with lichen. He doesn't need to see them yet. He knows what they are. They smell like cooked meat, oil, and paper. He climbs along a slope until he reaches a high point, a jut of boulder above a shallow clearing that had once been thick with pine. The trees here were cut years ago, but not cleanly. The stumps remain, rotted and gray, surrounded by young ferns and the carcasses of fallen limbs. And there they are, 3 men. One is hammering a wooden stake into the earth, bright pink ribbon tied around the top. Another is unrolling a canvas sheet, scribbled with something square and dark. A map, though the Bigfoot doesn't know the word. The third, the one with the rifle, is sitting on a log, chewing something. He spits between his boots. They move like men who think the land is empty. The Bigfoot watches from above. He listens. The singing man stops long enough to wipe sweat from his neck and swat at a fly. The man with the map says something about survey lines. The one with the rifle says, "This ain't even the hard part yet." The Bigfoot shifts slightly, lowering his weight into the stone, blending with shadow. These are not lost men. They are working. They are laying something down. And none of them ever look up. The clearing is shallow and wide, the earth churned with boot treads and half covered in broken branches. It is not a hunting camp. There is no fire ring, no meat, no scent of blood. But the markings are worse. The Bigfoot counts 5 wooden stakes already planted, each with a colored ribbon fluttering in the wind. Orange, red, yellow, too bright, too loud. Each one has been driven deep with care, not scattered, arranged. The men speak constantly. "That one's crooked." "It's rock under here, goddammit. I ain't got auger teeth." "That's not true, Northman. Check the compass again." Their voices grate. The Bigfoot hears every syllable through the trees, clearer than bird song. One of them opens a metal case, something with hinges. It smells of ink and old grease. He lays out a ruler, draws lines across a stiff page. Another man plants a fresh stake, pounding it in with a short-handled mallet. The sound strikes through the clearing in dull, rhythmic blows. Thock, thock, thock. The sound is familiar, not in meaning, but in shape, like bones being cracked open. The man with the rifle hasn't moved. He stands apart from the others, eyes on the tree line, chewing slowly, like he's trying to keep himself out of the work. He leans on his rifle not like a hunter, but like a man posing with it. The Bigfoot watches him longest. The man is sweating through his undershirt. His breath is slow, no tension, no awareness. They have no idea how visible they are. Not to eyes, to the forest. They leave nothing behind but the illusion of control. One of them walks a few paces toward the trees and unzips his fly. He urinates against a birch sapling, steam rising as it hits the cold bark. He laughs and shouts something over his shoulder. The Bigfoot does not move. He does not make a sound. But in the space behind his teeth, something presses. Not rage, not instinct. Just the silent knowledge that this is not what the forest accepts. He sinks lower behind the stone and waits. It doesn't take long. The sun has barely moved, but the men begin to collect their tools. Their language turns looser. They stretch, complain. One kicks at the base of a stump and mutters about back pain. They do not finish the grid. Their flagging tapes flutter in half patterns. 5 planted stakes, a 6th still unplaced, lying in the grass with a hammer beside it. The Bigfoot watches them fold up their map. The chewing man spits again and laughs. The rifle swings carelessly now from one shoulder, barrel bouncing against his thigh. One of them drops a metal tool, a dull silver shape, small and palm-sized. A wrench? A compass? A part of something larger. It lands with a light clink beside a root. They don't notice. None of them look back as they move up the trail. They don't speak anymore, only breathe loud, their boots scraping over fallen limbs and soft dirt. A zipper is tugged, a strap adjusted, a cough. That's all. Their scent lingers, thick and muddied with grease and skin. The Bigfoot remains where he is until their sound has vanished completely. Even then, he doesn't move for several minutes. Not because of fear, because of what stays. The air is bruised, the ground is not bleeding, but it has been pressed upon, as if the soil itself recoiled, but had nowhere to go. A jay calls, sharp and singular, from the north slope. Then, nothing. And then, silence that breathes again. The Bigfoot rises. Not quickly, but fully. The clearing looks different now. Empty of men, but not of meaning. The Bigfoot steps into the open slowly, like an animal testing a frozen lake. But the ground holds. The sky watches. He moves through their traces, their footprints, wide and careless, crisscrossing in every direction, like a child's game. The scent of them hovers low, just above the grass. One patch of flattened earth still carries the heat from where a man sat. He crouches there, slowly, hand hovering just above the crushed needles. Sweat, leather, canned meat. He breathes in, deeply, once. Then he stands. He moves to the nearest wooden stake, planted shallowly near the edge of the clearing. It lists slightly in the soil, not because of wind, but because the man who drove it wasn't paying attention. The ribbon tied to the top is red, stained dark where the man's fingers gripped it. It flickers in the breeze, defiant and pointless. The Bigfoot stares at it for a long moment. Then he grips it. Not hard. Just enough to feel the grain of the wood, the tension in the fabric. He pulls it from the earth. It comes free with a pop and a crumbling shower of dirt. He holds it upright in his palm like a spear, then snaps it in half across his knee. The sound is small, the kind of sound the forest accepts. He drives the splintered end into the dirt, deep enough to disappear, then flattens it with the heel of his foot until nothing remains but loose soil. He moves to the next one, and does the same. One by one, with quiet, deliberate care, he removes their marks. He leaves no trace of their intent behind, only footprints in reverse. When he finishes, he stands in the center of the clearing, breath steady, shoulders still. His head turns south, toward the direction they went. The trees ahead are younger, thinner. There's less silence between them. He does not move yet, but he will. The snow doesn't fall. It drifts like breath. It moves sideways between the pines in sheets no thicker than thread. It doesn't blanket the ground. It whispers onto it. The forest isn't white, not yet. It's only quieter. The Bigfoot moves along the ridgeline, his fur dusted with a thin powdering of snowflakes. They cling to him as if uncertain, reluctant to melt. His steps are slow, measured. No sound. The trees creak. Once. Then go still. He knows this path, the high bend above the slope the men now work below. It curves like a scar across the top of the basin, long and narrow, lined with brush and half-dead pine. In spring, it's filled with bear tracks and melted runoff. Now, it's just quiet. A jay cries out behind him. Not alarm, just reaction. He has moved more openly today, left a branch swinging in his wake, let his breath fog the air behind a spruce, allowed a pine marten to see him before he passed it. That is unusual. His kind does not announce. But today is not a day for vanishing. Today, he wants to be sensed. The clearing where the men work is still a half-mile down, but already he smells them. Tobacco, oil, canvas, coffee. One man urinates often. The ammonia bite of it still clings to tree trunks. The Bigfoot slows at a narrowing between two leaning firs. He kneels there, resting a hand in the snow. His palm leaves no print. The forest hums with low tension. Not from fear, but suspicion. As if the trees themselves have realized that something unnatural is taking root in their memory. He listens. Far off, down in the basin, a voice laughs, broken, forced. The Bigfoot lowers his hand, presses the palm flat to the snow, then rises again. He moves forward. And this time, when a branch brushes his shoulder, he lets it sway, lets the needles scatter. And when a chickadee sees him, perched low on a bare limb, he does not vanish. He simply watches it watch him, then continues on. The trees thin near the western creek bed, a low ribbon of half-frozen water where stones clatter under the current like teeth. The Bigfoot moves through the upper slope slowly, weaving between firs and the occasional bare-barked tamarack. His hands brush moss. His eyes stay fixed below. The men are there, 2 of them now. He does not wonder where the third is. That is a question for later. The one with the rifle still carries it like weight. He keeps it slung too low, muzzle dragging through twigs. It's not respect, it's habit. The man doesn't know how to hold it, but he wants to be seen with it. The other man, stockier, face windburned and red, holds a metal box with dials. He keeps checking it, muttering to himself, then planting small wooden flags beside it. His shoulders twitch now and then, like he thinks something's behind him. They are measuring again. The forest does not like it. The rifleman lights a cigarette, shakes the match until it dies, then flicks it toward the creek without looking. The Bigfoot watches from the rise, standing now, not crouched. Still hidden by shadows, but not trying to disappear. His breath fogs faintly. It trails down over the boulder like smoke. Below, the man with the measuring tool straightens up, glances around, then bends again. But his shoulders are stiff now. His eyes lift a little more often. He drops the tool once, a sharp clack against the rock, and curses, louder than he meant to. The other man doesn't react, just smokes. But the first one pauses, looks around, not up, not quite. But he hesitates, scanning the trees like a dog that senses a low growl, too soft to be heard. For a moment, neither of them speak. The rifleman spits. The creek runs louder than it should, and above them, in a clearing that does not belong to men, a presence watches. Not threatening, but undeniable. The Bigfoot lets his breath leave slow. Then he turns, moves along the ridge, without breaking a branch, without snapping a twig, but not silently, not anymore. The wind changes fast. It rises with no warning, threading sharp through the ridgeline trees. Snow that had drifted soft now whips sideways in sharp sheets, hissing across bark, spinning into blinding swirls. The Bigfoot doesn't panic. He ducks low, moving under a stone overhang, a crooked shelf of granite that slants above a hollow in the hillside. He's sheltered here before. The stone still holds his scent from winters past. He crouches beneath it, one arm draped over his knees, letting the snow coat his back. It melts slowly against his body heat, then freezes again along the tips of his fur. Visibility vanishes. The forest is erased. Only the shape of it remains, the rhythm of wind against limb, the shifting silence where nothing moves. He listens. The men below will be blind now, deafened by the wind, their tools useless, their ribbon flags snapping like broken birds. This is not their kind of storm, but to the Bigfoot, it is cover, a time to listen without being seen. From deeper down the ridge, movement, not men. Four-legged, soft-footed, hungry. A cougar. She moves like smoke along the stream's edge, half visible through the flurry. Her belly is sunken, her shoulders tense beneath fur slicked by snow. She is tracking something. Ahead in a notch of the trees, elk, 3 of them, clustered tight, backs turned to the wind. They do not scent her yet. The Bigfoot shifts, but does not rise. He watches. The cougar waits behind a log, one paw lifted. She crouches lower. The snow covers her ears. Her tail flicks once. Then, motion. A lunge, a low cry, the thunder of hooves. But she is fast, desperate, and clean. She takes the smallest of the 3, claws latching behind the foreleg. The 2 others scatter. The snow muffles the chase. There is no spectacle, no triumph, just a short, shaking breath. Then stillness. She drags her kill into the shadows. The wind howls once more, then begins to soften. The Bigfoot remains beneath the rock, eyes open, unmoving. This is the true order of the wild, for now, still balanced. But balance is not permanence. The snow has settled by morning. Not deep, just enough to soften the land's skin. The trees are thick with it, branches bowed low, trunks dripping as the early light warms their bark. The Bigfoot lies half-curled beneath the same granite overhang, one arm folded under his head, the other across his chest. His breath clouds faintly in the cave mouth. Then, crack. A single, sharp sound splits the calm. Gunshot. He's up before thought reaches him. Not startled, but shifted, like a tree adjusting in wind. He listens. No birds, no stampede, no second shot, no death. Just the echo, fading across the slope like a nail dragged across stone. He steps out from the rock and tastes the air. The scent of man reaches him minutes later. Fresh cordite, oil, the sweat of pride. It was not a warning shot. It was not a mistake. It was a performance. A man reminding the woods that he is here, that he can. The Bigfoot breathes deep and slow, chest lifting like an avalanche, still choosing whether to fall. Then he moves, not toward the sound, toward the clearing, the one with the flags, the tools, the half-finished grid that drew lines across the belly of the land. He will not touch the men, not yet, but he will answer the shot, not with violence, with presence. The ridge is quiet again. Snow lays clean atop the ash, a false purity over burned roots and blackened soil. The trees here are still too young to speak properly. Their branches whisper instead of groan. The Bigfoot walks the center line of the clearing. Upright, unhurried, full height. His shoulders roll forward with each step, arms swinging loosely at his sides. His gait is slow, not to avoid noise, but to press weight into the earth, to mark it. His foot lands. Crunch. A full print, wide as a man's chest. Toes splayed slightly, the pad so deep it catches shadow. He steps again. Another print. And another. He doesn't follow the human trail. He moves through the center of the grid, between their flags, past the half-buried tool one man left behind. He doesn't touch it, doesn't need to. He is the tool now. Snow falls lightly across his back, melting slowly in the heat of his fur, dripping onto his shoulders like sweat. He walks until he reaches the southern edge, where the earth slopes down toward thinner forest. There, he stops. He turns, looks back at the line of prints he's made. 7 of them, spaced evenly, deep and deliberate. They do not waver, they do not wander. They say, "I am here. I am not hiding. This is not your place." He breathes in once, chest expanding. Then steps into the trees. The wind behind him rises and blows snow across the clearing, swirling over stone and branch, but not touching the tracks. They remain, visible, waiting. The wind is steady that morning, clean, cold, carrying the scent of old pine and new snow. But something's wrong in it. The Bigfoot catches it halfway along the ridge. Absence, not silence, not stillness. Something more deliberate, like the forest is trying not to say something. He crouches low, one hand pressed to the frozen ground. Breath slow. The air holds less than it should. He moves toward the clearing. The men's trail is easy to find, clumsy, heavy-footed, loud with oil and cloth and human stink. But today, it's missing a note. The scent pattern is incomplete. There were 3. Today, there are 2. He follows them down the slope, slower than usual, head low. At the edge of the clearing, he halts. Something has happened here. The snow is disturbed in a wide, panicked pattern. No measured steps, no rhythm, just churned earth, scattered tools, torn brush. One of the canvas flag markers lies trampled, the wooden stake broken in half. He steps inside. There's no body, no drag marks, but he smells blood. Not much, just enough to be final. There's a boot print. Only one, left heel half sunk near the edge of the creek bed, facing the trees as if someone turned quickly and didn't take the next step. He crouches beside it. The print is not deep enough to suggest struggle, not frantic enough for a fall, but the scent around it is sharp, bitter, fear. He sees something glinting in the snow, a small, shattered device. Metal frame snapped in two, wires hanging like tendons. He lifts it, brings it to his nose. Not from a weapon. A radio. He drops it. The forest feels tight here, like a mouth clamped shut. He straightens and scans the tree line. No birds. No chatter. The trees are holding something back. He didn't see it happen. But he knows it wasn't wolves. Wolves leave blood. Wolves leave sound. This left only a hole. He breathes in, slow and full, until the cold stings his lungs. Then he steps back from the clearing and disappears into the trees. Whatever happened here, it wasn't his doing. But now the forest smells of men who bleed. A full day passes. The clearing stays untouched. No footprints, no new stakes, no smoke. The forest begins to loosen its breath again. A squirrel tests the edge. A woodpecker returns to a half-dead pine. Then, late in the next afternoon, the men come back. Only two. They arrive differently this time, not side by side, not speaking. One walks ahead, rifle slung tight, eyes low. The other lags behind, head swiveling too much, one hand gripping his satchel like it might jump from him. The Bigfoot watches from the ridge. He doesn't need to move closer. The scent comes to him. They are afraid. But it's not panic. It's the quieter, heavier kind of fear. The kind that follows you. The kind that makes every decision a little slower, every step more careful. The kind that sits behind your eyes when you sleep. They do not return to the same camp circle. They stop 10 yards short of it, then veer off to the left, settling beneath a cluster of birch. They speak in murmurs. They do not rebuild the flag grid. They do not mention what's gone. But they've changed. The louder one, the man who used to sing, now barely speaks. His fingers twitch when he lights a match. He checks the tree line 3 times in 5 minutes. The rifleman keeps looking toward the ridge. Not like a hunter, like a man waiting to see something he knows is real, but doesn't want to meet. The Bigfoot shifts behind a log. One of them stiffens and turns, stares straight into the trees. He can't see, but he feels. For a moment, the clearing is still. The rifleman lifts his weapon slightly, but not to aim, just to remind himself it's there. Then he lowers it. They return to their task, slowly, clumsily. But the rhythm is broken. The forest has already taken something from them, and now they move like men walking through a place that no longer agrees to be theirs. The snow deepens by inches, small, steady, a silence that gathers over time. The Bigfoot moves along the riverbank, following the curve where the cedars lean lowest. His footfalls press cleanly into the wet soil between roots. He is not tracking the men now. He is moving by something else, a familiar pull beneath the ribs. And then he finds it. Scent. Clyde. Pipe smoke. Cold, almost gone, but still curled in the bark. Coffee. Steel thermos. Waxed canvas coat. And something new. Iron polish. Faint, but real. Smells like a memory from long ago. Not blood. Not oil. A rifle. The Bigfoot stops. He follows the scent trail no farther than the ridge's base, where the trees open into a clearing near the split cedar, a place where the land slopes softly toward the bend in the river. There, standing beside a broken stump, is Clyde Turnbuckle. He's older, again. The snow has added years. His shoulders are hunched deeper into his coat, and he walks with more weight in the knees than the hips now. But he is steady. He holds the rifle across both arms, not aimed, not even ready. cradled like a tool too heavy to leave behind, like a memory. He looks around him slowly, not with suspicion, but with awareness. His eyes don't dart. They settle. He sees the tree line. He sees the stone. He sees the empty air and the full silence. He knows. Clyde's breath curls in front of him and fades. He says nothing. He just stops near the split tree, rests the rifle across the stump, and leans on his stick. Not calling, just waiting. The Bigfoot stays in shadow, 30 yards off. He does not approach. Not yet. But something in him shifts. This is not like before. The silence between them now is not recognition. It is question. Something has happened, something Clyde can't name, but the forest has told him anyway. And now he is here to listen. The river runs shallow here, crusted with thin ice along the banks, clear in the center where the current won't stop. The trees lean back from it, respectful of its path. There are no birds, no calls, just water. And two shapes. Clyde on one side, still, steady, outlined by pine behind him. And then, from the trees opposite, the Bigfoot steps into the open. He does not crouch. He does not stalk. He does not look away. He stands tall, fur dusted with snow, arms loose at his sides, face unreadable beneath the heavy brow. Steam rises from his shoulders in thin ribbons. His breath hangs, slow and measured. Clyde doesn't move at first, but his eyes shift. Find the shape across the river. And he does not reach for the rifle. Instead, he watches. And then, quiet as a man stacking firewood, he lifts the rifle by the barrel. He kneels and sets it gently in the snow at his feet. Then stands, steps back. 1 step, 2. Hands empty. He doesn't raise them. Doesn't perform peace. He simply removes weight. The Bigfoot tilts his head, only slightly. Clyde exhales, lips barely parted. His jaw flexes, not from fear, not from cold, just tension slowly unwinding, like bark loosening from deadwood in spring. They stay like that, still. No signal passed, no story told, only recognition shared across moving water. Clyde nods once, not to the Bigfoot, but to the moment. Then he turns and walks away. Boots crunch, coat sways. He never looks back. The Bigfoot watches until the man vanishes between the trees, swallowed not by distance, but by belonging. The river keeps moving. It begins with the scent of blood that isn't fresh, not spilled, not from prey. Blood rubbed into fabric, soaked into boots, dried into straps. The kind of blood that doesn't belong to hunger. It comes on the wind from the south, thick with wood smoke and alcohol, coiled with a stink he knows too well. Man in his worst shape. He finds the trail before he sees them. Deep boot prints, different tread, wider stance, heavier step. These men aren't carrying paper maps or ink pens. They carry rifles, knives, meat already killed. The tracks lead through the younger forest, where the trees grow thin and careless. The Bigfoot moves with no sound through the brush. The snow doesn't cling here. It melts quickly against his shoulders, slides down his arms like warning. He follows the trail downhill, nose low, until he hears it. Voices, not sharp like the surveyor's. These voices are duller, broken by drink. More like animals growling over a carcass than men speaking. Laughter, a metal click, a spit. He draws close to their camp, not too near. High behind a screen of spruce, where the firelight throws dancing shadows against the trees. There are 4 of them. 2 are seated near the fire. 1 sharpens a knife on his boot. The blade flashes. Another drinks from a tin cup and swears at the wind. 1 walks perimeter, gun barrel swaying. He pisses into the fire, laughs when it sizzles. The 4th says nothing, just listens. He hears them speak, not in direct words, half-stories, broken sentences, mentions of something big, something standing. 1 says he heard breathing in the trees the night before. 1 says his uncle saw a thing like a man covered in moss and meat. They say it like it's a joke, but they don't laugh long, because they believe it just enough. And belief in men like these is a dangerous thing. They didn't come to prove the stories wrong. They came to trap them. The Bigfoot watches until their fire dims to coals. He says nothing. He leaves no trace. But his chest is tight with the knowledge of what kind of men these are. They do not measure. They do not observe. They do not fear. They test. Morning comes hard, with gray light and thick frost. The men are already moving. Their camp smells stronger now. Sweat, sour meat, copper from a bloodied blade, tobacco ground into canvas. The Bigfoot circles wide through the trees, following their movement by sound and scent. They're setting something. He watches from behind a deadfall, covered in old snow and lichen. His eyes narrow. Wire. 3 of them kneel at the base of a narrow game trail, laughing, muttering, threading snare wire between 2 saplings. It's not meant for deer. It's too low, too wide. 1 ties a strip of meat to a rusted nail and hangs it like bait. The fat drips slowly in the cold. Another pisses in a circle around the trap, laughing as he says, "Keep the real predators out." They move on. The Bigfoot stays hidden. Then, after an hour, a shriek, not human, not predator, a high, wet, ripping sound that pierces the trees and makes even the wind pause. He moves toward it, but slowly, carefully. When he reaches the trap site, he does not enter. He watches. A raccoon, young, caught at the waist, back legs mangled in the wire, eyes wide and shining with pain, mouth red from biting at the loop. It screams again. The Bigfoot doesn't move. He could stop it, break the wire, silence the cries, but he doesn't, because the men did not set this for meat. They set it for him. He watches from the shadows. The raccoon writhes, then stills, then writhes again. Time passes. The forest learns what cruelty smells like. And then, at last, silence. The cries stop. The body goes still, not dead, exhausted, broken. The Bigfoot steps back from the brush and turns toward their camp. Now it's his turn to set something. The cold deepens after sundown. The forest no longer crackles. It listens. The Bigfoot waits high on the ridge while the wind moves down through the pines, flattening the smoke that still clings faintly to the tree limbs. Below, their fire dims into smoldering coals. 2 of the men are already in their tents. 1 paces, muttering to himself. The other sleeps with his rifle inside his sleeping bag. He watches them until the last voice fades. Then he moves, not quickly, not clumsily, but with deliberate, silent purpose, like the ice forming on the inside of a cup. He enters the camp on foot, full height, no longer avoiding prints, but placing each one where boot steps already exist. He leaves no new path, no new trail, only his presence. The camp is a sprawl of canvas and tarps, garbage in a pile. A crude string line hung with smoked meat that smells like deer and lighter fluid. The first thing he does is step to their supply crate and tip it slowly over. No noise, just the soft clatter of tin and paper collapsing into the snow. He rips one tent clean down the seam with his hand, cutting the canvas like paper. The stakes snap in the cold. The flap peels back, exposing a sleeping mat soaked with sweat. He does not touch the man inside. Not yet. He leaves the sleeping bag unbroken. He moves to the pile of wire snares. One by one, he bends them around the trunks of nearby trees, so tight, so high, they look like strange roots trying to crawl back into the bark. One wire he pulls straight, stretches it between two stones, and leaves it like a question. He smashes a tool, a folding saw, into the ash remains of the fire, burying it blade first into the earth. Then, slowly, he picks up a pair of boots left outside a tent. He crushes them in his hands. Not violently, just enough that they can no longer be worn, and then he stands in the center of the camp, surrounded by all they brought, surrounded by what they left, everything touched, nothing burned, except for the fire pit, that he leaves whole. The stones stay in their ring, the coals stay banked. The warmth remains, small but offered. A reminder, you were permitted this, no more. He turns, walking back into the dark, brushing the branches behind him to erase what little he disturbed. By morning, they will wake to destruction without tracks, shattered tools without wind, and a fire that was not stomped out, just surrounded by silence. The frost is deep by morning. The low air carries no birdsong, only the crunch of boots returning to a place they thought they controlled. The Bigfoot crouches above, nested behind a wall of lichen-covered stone, far enough not to be seen, but close enough to hear every word as the men arrive at camp. They stop short. One curses, loud and ragged. Another stares at the bent wire wrapped around a tree and mutters, "That wasn't the wind." No one laughs. The one who had been pacing last night, taller, with sunburnt lips and eyes like spoiled milk, starts shouting. He kicks over the supply crate again, as if undoing its position will reverse what's been done. Another bends over the crushed boots, lifts them with both hands like a dead pet, just stares, then hurls them across the fire pit. The tent lies in shreds. Their meat line is on the ground, half frozen, half gone. One man kneels and tries to fix a snapped trap. His hands tremble. The rifle is unslung now, held tightly, breathing fast, no target, and then, crack. The man fires into the trees, blind, wild. The report tears through the forest, echoing like thunder against snow. A jay explodes from a nearby pine, shrieking. But the forest does not flinch. The shot hits nothing. And worse, it changes nothing. Because whatever they hope to scare, whatever they hope to warn, is already beyond fear. The Bigfoot remains still, high on the ridge, watching, waiting. They speak more softly now. They don't sit. They don't eat. They just try to make sense of what's been undone. Not by a bear, not by time, but by something that knew they were here and chose to let them live. For now. He walks for a day without stopping, not from fear, not from anger, from something harder to name, a pressure in the ribs, like old roots shifting under soil too long packed tight. The trees grow taller here, not thick, but high, reaching like bones through the sky, bare-fingered and silver. The bark flakes in long ribbons. Moss doesn't bother with these trunks. The ground is slate and pine needle and long-forgotten ash. No human has walked here in a generation. The Bigfoot moves along a narrow slope path, barely a trail at all, just the memory of one. An old bear track, or elk, or something older still. No broken branches, no snapped wire, no boot prints. Even the birds are different here. Quiet, brown-eyed things with narrow wings and names no man ever gave them. He passes a stretch of stone that smells like iron and cold water. At its base, a pool, dark, shallow, lined with smooth black obsidian shards. He drinks once. The reflection that stares back is not comforting. His face is streaked with snowmelt. His eyes are wide. His mouth slightly open, listening, not to danger, but to memory, edging up from the dark beneath his feet like smoke through a crack in the floor. He does not want to stop, but his body begins to slow. The ridge levels, the light bends amber. A gust of wind rises from the western valley, dry and sharp. He finds the cave without looking. A low slit in the rock, choked with ice-crusted moss and old hair, tucked beneath a half-fallen cedar. He has sheltered here before, but not recently, not since the time before the forgetting. The wind dies at the mouth of the cave. Inside, it's still enough to hear pine needles fall from trees above, ticking like rain onto stone. Still enough that when he exhales, the air hovers. He enters low, on all fours at first, then rises once the rock widens. The ceiling presses close, heavy with old soot, packed dust, and the hard scent of something long dead. He remembers this place by its sound, not its shape. The hush of earth pulled tight over silence. The way it feels like something else is listening beneath your feet. He takes a step deeper, and his heel brushes something hollow. Bone. He stops, looks down, not scattered, placed. Small piles, one near the wall, another beneath an outcropping of rock. Bits of femur, a length of rib, a shoulder joint cracked at the cup. The skull is half buried in dust, tilted to the side, one brow ridge shattered. He kneels, lifts it gently. No animal made these marks. The fractures are too clean, not from teeth, not from weather. Blades, old ones, crude, but sharp, and used without hesitation. He turns the skull in his palm. The bone creaks, dry and light. And something inside his chest clenches. Not grief, not yet, just the knowing. This was one of his own. Not another animal, not a mistake, not legend. The bones are not sacred, not buried. They were left. Abandoned in a place meant to feel safe. A den, a shelter. A silence begins to grow in the back of his skull. Not a voice, not a memory, not yet, but a shape. A weight coming closer. The skull rests in his hands. He doesn't move, doesn't blink. Then it comes. Not like a vision, not like a thought, like a wound remembering how it was made. The air shifts. The cave walls fall away. He is younger, lighter, faster, Snow is falling, hard, not like the soft sifting kind he knows. This is heavy snow, wet, choking. It comes down sideways, driven by wind that snaps branches like twigs. He's running. His feet slap through shallow powder. His legs burn. He isn't alone. There's a shape beside him, smaller, wrapped in fur, clinging to his leg. It doesn't speak, but it breathes in short, fast gasps, like it's crying without making sound. They're running away. Behind them, a different sound, snapping wood, fire, shouting. The voices aren't words, they're commands, barks, like predators that speak. One is louder, angrier, calling to the others, telling them where to go. Then, crack. A sound like the sky breaking. The snow lights up orange, heat. Then smoke, thick, black, rolling across the ground like an animal on its belly. The smaller shape clutches his thigh, buries its face. He turns once. There is fire where the den used to be. He sees something in the flames, not clearly, just a shape. 2 legs, holding something metal, turning, looking ... Then, gone. The memory tears loose like bark ripped from a tree in spring. And he's back in the cave, the skull in his hands, his breath shaking. The bones at his feet do not accuse, but they remember. And now, so does he. The ridge is steeper than he remembers. Or maybe it was never this steep. Maybe he was smaller when he last climbed it. The trees lean back along the slope like spectators, trunks blackened from old weather, some bowed, some broken. The Bigfoot moves slowly now. Each step is careful, not because of danger, but because of reverence. The memory has unspooled behind his eyes, but it hasn't settled. It moves in pieces still, fire, shouting, cold. But now there's direction in it, a place. He descends into the grove. At first, it looks like nothing. A low dip in the land, choked with bramble and deadfall. Moss clings to every surface, snow pooled in pockets between rocks. But then he sees it, a ring of stone. Half sunken, blackened at the roots. Old scorch marks climbing up through the moss like veins. Logs long ago turned to ash. The walls of what once was a den, a family shelter, long ago built with care, burnt from the inside. The Bigfoot steps across the perimeter. The silence here is different, thicker. Not the quiet of an empty forest, but of a grave. At the center of the ruin is a flat stone, wide and low, sunken in the dirt. He knows it. A sleeping shelf, a resting place. He kneels beside it, brushes back the frost with his palm. There, beneath the melt and lichen and time, is a single handprint. Burned into the stone, charred black, the edges sharp, the size of it, larger than his own, worn down at the fingertips, pressed deep, as if the hand that made it had clung to the rock in its final moment. He lays his own hand beside it, smaller, newer. The shape is the same, but this one never knew fire. Until now. He doesn't speak, doesn't roar, doesn't cry. But a sound moves in his chest, deep, wordless, old. A sound that's felt more than heard. And the forest listens, because it too remembers. The smoke comes early, sharp and bitter, thick with resin and sapwood, not the dry tobacco curl of a morning fire. The Bigfoot catches it mid-stride, deep in the pines where light rarely touches. It enters through his nostrils like memory, jolting his chest with something more than scent. He turns toward it. It's coming from the direction of the last camp, but higher up. Closer to the ridge, he only walks during snowmelt. He moves faster now, hands brushing the trunks as he passes. Pine bark flakes. Dry. Too dry. One careless fire would take this forest in a single night. The thought pulses behind his eyes. He crests the ridge quietly, drops to a low crouch beneath a line of sagging firs. Then he sees it. They've built something. Not a shelter. Not a blind. A shape. Crude. Unnatural. A series of thick poles driven into the ground and lashed together with rope and wire. A raised fire pit, half-iron barrel, blackened inside, already smoking. Beside it, a rough structure, half cage, half frame. Maybe for bait, maybe for someone. It's too large for any deer, too crude for logging. Around the perimeter, metal spikes have been hammered into the trees, narrow and sharpened, some wrapped in twine, some slick with oil. And the scent, it's not just smoke. Kerosene, gun oil, metal cooled too fast. A plan. They are building not to survive, but to capture. He watches one of the men pour fuel into a shallow trench. Another tests the tension on a spring-loaded gate. A third kneels by a canvas bag and pulls out a flare gun. He says something. The others laugh. Not loudly, not easily. They're trying to be casual. But the fear is already under their fingernails. They think they are ready. They are wrong. The Bigfoot leans back from the ridge, hidden by stone. The scent of smoke clings to his fur now. It makes his chest ache. Again, they have brought fire into the woods. But this time, he is the fire. The wind shifts just after noon. The Bigfoot is already still, low to the ground, his body pressed between two long shelves of shale above the camp. Snow has begun to fall again, soft and dry, the kind that doesn't speak when it lands. The fire below hisses low. The men are working, not chaotically, but with urgency. Their hands move with the rhythm of animals that believe they are laying a trap for something dumber than themselves. He watches. There are 4 again, one new, bigger, square in the shoulders, younger than the others, but with something in his posture that says he's never hunted alone. The others are fraying. He studies each in turn. The limper, tall, gaunt, carrying a crooked walk that worsens with each hour. He keeps reaching down to his thigh as if something tightens there. He drags his foot just enough to leave uneven tracks. A weakness. The silent one, always near another, never out of sight. His eyes scan too fast. His breath changes when the trees move. He has a pistol, but never wears it comfortably. The holster hangs too loose. A target. The talker. Smaller, faster with his hands than with his mouth. He tries to stay in charge, but doesn't touch the weapons. Gives orders, jokes too loud, doesn't laugh at his own jokes. The others don't listen well. And now the new one, the big one, rifle held properly, eyes that track the sky as well as the trail. He checks the fire less than the rest, checks the tree line more. The Bigfoot watches them like elk at the edge of mating season, not out of curiosity, but because he must know their fail points. Not to kill, but to stop. To make them stop. They are building fear into the land, so he will build fear into them. The trees press in tighter after dusk. The men retreat to their fire, muttering half-warnings and lighting the flames too high, as if smoke can protect them. It cannot. Above them, The Bigfoot waits until the last voice drops into sleep. Then he moves, not through the center of camp, around it, wide and patient, looping in like a tightening snare. His steps fall where old prints already lie. No trail left, no pattern broken. He begins with the smallest thing, a coil of rope, left beside a log. He moves it 30 feet east and lays it beneath a patch of snow. Not hidden, not buried, just moved. Then a flare gun, propped beside a pack. He nudges it backward into a fold of canvas. He doesn't take anything. Just enough to seed suspicion. He tears down one of their pink marker ribbons tied to a spruce and reties it between two pines much farther north, where the ground is soft and footprints smudge fast. Let them chase the wrong trail. Let them think they marked it wrong. He circles again. Then he presses his foot into the edge of a muddy runoff and twists slightly, not his full footprint. Just claws. 4 of them, wolf-like, but too long, too wide, too deep. Then again, and again, a ring of them around their outer traps. He hears the wind shift, a branch creak. One of the men stirs in his tent, lets out a cough, then settles. The Bigfoot waits behind the rocks, breath still. Then he moves on. One last thing. He unslings a rusted old pan from their gear line and sets it gently in a tree fork just above eye level. Balancing. Not hidden, but waiting. Let it fall tomorrow. Let it startle. Let it remind them. Nothing here stays where you left it. The third night begins with silence. Not quiet. Silence. The kind that holds its breath. Even the trees. Even the birds. The fire burns low, just embers and shifting orange breath in a bed of ash. They sit closer together now. 1 drink, 2 clean weapons. The 4th stares into the dark, like a man watching for his own name in fog. Then, snap, just outside the ring. A twig, small, clean. The one with the limp freezes. The big one rises halfway, rifle loose in hand, eyes scanning the black. Not speaking, just listening. They hear it again. A soft drag of something across bark. Then stillness. Then clink. The pan falls. A flash of alarm. Someone scrambles for their light. A beam of yellow stabs the trees. Nothing there. Just branches. Just snow. But something moved. They know it. And now, so does the dark. The Bigfoot paces wide behind the camp. No rush. No menace. Presence. Letting his heat touch the air just enough for the deer to flee. Letting his weight press just enough to break a stick beneath moss. He circles once, then twice, then stops. The wind shifts. Their scent is full of adrenaline now, sour and sharp, crawling through their sweat. Someone says, "It's close." Another answers, "Then why hasn't it come in?" No one replies, because they already know. It doesn't need to come in. It already owns everything outside. By morning, they will not speak of sleep. They will not speak of dreams. They will speak of shadows, and footsteps that never showed prints, and a feeling, not a thought, that they are being studied. Because they are. Dawn does not come easily. The fire burns low, barely glowing under the weight of fresh snow. A boot lies 20 feet from the tent it came from. The coil of rope is gone again. One of the snares has been ripped from the saplings. not broken, not triggered, just unwoven, then left in pieces across the path like shed skin. They wake angry. But more than that, they wake wrong. The talker is already barking orders, tells the young one to check the perimeter, swears the flare gun was moved. Again, he slams a tin cup down and calls someone a coward. The young one doesn't answer. He walks the edge of camp, too slowly to be obeying. He's not looking at the trees. He's listening to them. The limper has his pack on already. His eyes are red. His rifle isn't slung. It's clutched. He points at the claw marks. 4 of them. Fresh. Low on a spruce near the edge of camp. They weren't there last night. The talker says it's a trick. Just bark split from ice or some other animal trying to scare them. Says they're close. Too close to quit. But his voice is tight now. There's no swagger in it. The limper says he's done. Says he'll follow the ridgeline south and find the stream that leads out. Says he doesn't care if they laugh. But no one laughs. They don't even tell him to wait. Because some part of them, the part that grew up near woods, that once knew the dark before electricity, knows he won't make it out. He disappears by afternoon. No one follows. They don't even speak his name. Just sit closer to the fire that night and listen. The forest doesn't lie. It holds the truth in its ground, in the weight of broken ferns, in the scent of blood carried low on the wind, not fresh but not yet old. A thin red whisper pulled between bark and moss. The Bigfoot follows it slowly. No rush, no hunger, just a kind of quiet knowing, the same kind that leads salmon up the mountain streams to spawn and die without fanfare. He moves between the pines like a shadow shedding its body. The man's trail is scattered, wide steps, panicked, but not fast, not purposeful. He'd gotten turned around. The footprints fade into a gully, slide marks, then one long drag across wet soil where snow hadn't settled. Then nothing. Just roots. And the tree. It's wide, older than the others, splintered near the base, cracked open down the middle like something once struck it with fire from the inside out. Burn marks crawl up the bark in thin, twisting fingers. A long-ago wound. At its base, half cradled between the roots, lies the man. Face down, one boot off, hands curled near his chest. There is blood behind the head, not gushing, just seeping. Black now, sticky. No claw marks, no teeth. No broken limbs, just a fall. A single hard one. The Bigfoot crouches, listens, but the forest is already quiet again. Not reverent, not cruel, just done with him. The tree split once, long ago. Fire opened it. Then time sealed it halfway shut, just wide enough to catch a man who didn't know how to look down. The Bigfoot leans close, nostrils flaring. He knows this tree. He remembers the burn marks, not these exact ones, but the pattern, the smell of fire that clings to living wood long after the heat is gone. He does not move the body, does not touch it. He only looks once, long and deep, and knows they will think this was him, because it is easier for them, because it always was. The air here is still, not peaceful, just finished. The man's blood has soaked into the dirt at the base of the tree, where roots curl like fingers under him. One of his gloves lies in the snow. The fingers are stiff, curled, like they reached for something but not hard, not like someone fighting, just falling. The Bigfoot stays beside him, kneeling low, elbows on his thighs, head bowed, not in mourning, in thought. He does not mourn the man, but he mourns what they will say, because he knows the pattern, the shape of their logic. A man disappears in the night. He was afraid. He was armed. He was hunted, or thought he was. Then he is found dead, and in their minds there can only be one answer. The monster did it. He can already hear their voices, echoing in memory. It took him. It waited. We were right. They will clutch their weapons tighter now. The fire will be stoked higher. The traps will be set deeper, because one of their own is gone. And the only story they know how to tell about that is vengeance. He lowers his head further, nostrils brushing the snow beside the man's torn pack. There is no smell of fear here. No final fight. No cry for help. Just a long walk through confusion, and then the ground came up too fast, and the world went away. He remembers another time, not clearly, a voice, high and sharp, crying out in a way that never reached words. A small shape falling behind him in the snow. The fire was behind them then too, always behind. He did not turn around then. He couldn't. He should have. And now they will not see truth in the body beneath the tree. Only a reason to aim higher. Night drops like a net, fast, heavy, full of unseen knots. The Bigfoot moves with it, low through the underbrush, following no path now. He walks until the scent of smoke cuts the cold again. This fire burns smaller, sharper. The wood is green. It hisses, doesn't crackle. He stops at the ridge just above their new camp. There are only 3 now. One is asleep already, or pretending. One stands with his back to the flames, eyes on the black beyond the light. The youngest sits alone, back hunched, rifle resting across his lap, not held. He's not watching. He's just looking. His face has none of the fear of the others, but none of the arrogance either. Something has been drained from him, slowly, like water leaking from a cracked boot over days. The Bigfoot crouches in the snow above, half concealed behind frost-caked limbs. He watches the young man, not for weakness, not for danger, but for something he doesn't fully understand. A kind of pause. The young man glances toward the tree line, not startled, not searching, just looking. Then, after a long moment, he speaks, low, so low the others don't hear, but the forest does. We shouldn't be here. He says it without bitterness, without apology, just truth, worn thin by cold and silence and doubt. The Bigfoot does not move. He watches the way the man stares at nothing, how he doesn't lift his rifle, how his eyes don't seek monsters, just answers. And there aren't any. Only trees, only snow, only the dark, and the fact that it does not come for him tonight. The Bigfoot turns back, moving into shadow. He does not look back. Not because he is finished with them, but because something has shifted, and someone in the camp now understands, if only barely. The change isn't loud. It comes in lack. The wind disappears first, not gradually, but suddenly, like a breath held too long. The trees no longer sway. They stand stiff and brittle, trunks clicking as they settle into place, as if waiting for something that hasn't arrived yet. The birds are gone next. No dawn chorus, no rustle in the underbrush, not even crows, not even the scavengers. Silence seeps into the camp from the edges, and it settles inside them. By the third day without footprints but with the sense of being watched, they begin to shrink. Not visibly, not openly, but in the way their shoulders round when they think they're alone. The talker still tries to fill the air, still cracks his voice against the silence. But now it doesn't carry. Now it falls flat against the snow. The youngest packs and unpacks his gear without ever moving it toward the trail. The third, who once cleaned his rifle every morning, hasn't touched it in 2 days. They sit closer to the fire, but don't stoke it. They're saving wood, though none of them says it, because leaving hasn't been agreed on. But it's coming. They no longer speak of the creature, not by name, not even in metaphor, but they hear him, not in sound, but in how everything else has stopped. The forest has entered a kind of hush, not peace, preparation, and it is working, not through violence, but through attrition. The trees part near the edge of the old ravine. Not wide, just enough for him to slip through sideways, brushing against bark worn smooth by elk shoulders and the passing of years. Below, the land dips and curls, carved by meltwater and time. Here, the stream only flows in spring. Now it is frozen. A skin of thin blue ice stretches across the bed, puckered in places, smooth in others. Leaves have caught and frozen into it, delicate and amber, like insects preserved in sap. He remembers this place, but not clearly, only in flashes. Drinking here once, many winters ago, when the snow broke early and the water ran black with root and thaw. Today, the wind doesn't touch this hollow. It is still. Too still. He steps onto the ice slowly. It groans beneath his weight but doesn't break. He kneels, lowers his hands to the surface, the tips of his fingers steaming slightly against the cold. He exhales once, then presses down, firm but controlled, until cracks spider out from his hand. The ice breaks with a clean sound. He scoops out the slush with cupped palms and drinks once, then again. Then he freezes, beneath the broken surface, just past the line of shadow where the stream bends. Something pale gleams under the water. Not rock, not root, white, smooth, curved. He leans closer, clears the water with his hand. A shape appears, bone, not small, not shattered like deer or moose. Long, too long. And as the light shifts, another shape reveals itself nearby. A second curve, then a straight line, then something metal, glinting between frozen ribs. He does not breathe, he does not move, because the water has not just preserved a body, it has preserved a truth. And now the forest has decided it is time to see it again. The Bigfoot shifts onto one knee. He reaches into the stream. The ice is thin here, but the mud beneath is stubborn, frozen in uneven layers. It clings to the bone like wet leather, reluctant to release what the cold has hidden. He curls his fingers into the silt and pulls. First a sound, a low, wet tear as roots give way. Then, slowly, something lifts free. A femur, long, thick, clean at one end, the other scorched, blackened bone curled slightly inward from heat. No teeth marks, no weather break, just fire. He holds it for a moment, letting the water trail off in sheets. His grip is loose, reverent. This was someone, not a stranger. A brother, maybe. A cousin. A mate. Someone with his gait. His size. His quiet way of walking through trees without bending a single branch. He lays it down, then digs deeper. What comes next is harder to pull. A partial rib cage, tangled in roots. One side shattered, the other intact, until his hand brushes something cold and wrong between the ribs. He flinches, not from pain, from recognition. It's metal, small, triangular, jagged. He digs around it slowly and lifts it out with care. A broken bayonet tip, half rusted, edges black with old blood and something darker. The blade curves slightly inward, designed to wound, not kill, to let the blood keep coming. He sniffs it. The scent is faint, but it's still there. Oil, gunpowder, the stink of human leather. A weapon made not for food, not for defense, but for ending things. He exhales through his teeth, low and deep. Something stirs in the hollow of his chest. Not rage, not sorrow. Recognition. He has seen this metal before. Not this exact one, but its brothers. In hands that shouted. In hands that burned. In the smoke that tore a child from behind him. Too fast to stop, too small to save. His fingers tighten around the blade. His other hand clenches the scorched femur. And in that moment, all sound dies again. Because the forest has shown him its memory, and now he will return the favor. It comes back with the weight of falling snow. A fire that doesn't flicker, but devours. Voices shouting across open ground. A small hand grabbing his fur, trembling, then slipping. Not taken, torn. The smoke was not thick that day. It was fast, sharp. It found its way through the gaps in the den like it knew where he slept. He remembers stumbling back through ash. The den already lost. The smaller shapes already gone. Now his hands are full of the proof. Scorched bone in one, murdered steel in the other. His breath turns to steam as it leaves him. A long exhale, shivering with restraint. The trees lean in, brittle with cold, ready to carry whatever comes next. And it comes. He lifts his head, opens his mouth, and from the deepest part of his chest, from the part of him older than grief, older than fire, older than language, he releases it, a sound without mercy. Not a roar, not a cry, something slower, something long. A mourning turned inside out. It shivers through the trees. It shakes ice from the limbs. It travels across miles of empty forest. It finds the camp. Down in the hollow, the fire cracks once, startled. The youngest man drops the tin cup in his hand. The talker jerks upright, eyes wide, rifle pulled to his chest like a shield he no longer believes in. And the third, silent since morning, starts to weep. None of them speak, because they understand, all at once, that the creature is no longer circling. He is not warning. He is remembering. And the sound he made was not a threat. It was a vow. The snow fell lightly in the night. By morning, it's just deep enough to cover prints, but not to hide absence. The fire is long dead, the woodpile untouched. The youngest man's bedroll is still there, neat, folded, dry, but his boots are gone, and so is he. The talker finds the rifle first. It leans against a flat stone at the edge of camp, standing almost upright, as though placed, not dropped. It faces outward, barrel toward the woods. A choice. The Silent One kneels beside it, touches the barrel. Still cold. Not fired. The talker's voice is sharp and ragged now, stripped of swagger. He left without us. Goddamn fool. Took off while we slept. The Silent One doesn't answer. Because they both know. He didn't take food. Didn't take light. Didn't even take his weapon. He walked out knowing what was out there. And he still went. The talker curses again, picks up the rifle, checks it, then tosses it down. We go after him. He's green, he's scared, but he's not gone. Still no answer. The Silent One stands slowly, shoulders stiff, and without speaking, he starts walking. Not fast, not eager, but resigned. Because they both know something else, too. This will not end well. They follow without speaking. The trail is faint, half blotted by snow, half by wind. But it's there, wide, straight, unhurried. No panic in the steps, no signs of stumbling or doubling back. Just footprints, moving toward the deeper trees. The talker checks his pistol twice on the way. The first time, his hand is steady. The second, it shakes. They pass the place where the last snare was strung, torn down. They pass a tree where bark has been peeled in 4 long strips, each a finger wide, each curling slightly at the tips, like claws pulled slow. They do not speak of it. The forest speaks for them. No birds, no wind, just the hush of white weight pressing in from every side. And then they see it. Not a trail, not a clearing exactly, but a space where nothing grows, where the snow lies thinner than it should, where the air feels wrong. The trees ring it like sentinels. And in the center, dark against the snow, lies the ash circle, not wide, 10 feet across, charred stone, half covered in white. No footprints cross it, no creature enters it, except one. He stands at the center, still, upright, waiting. They stop, both of them, 10 paces from the edge. The talker whispers, like trying not to wake something already awake. Jesus. The Silent One just stares, for the first time. They see him, not as a shape, not as a story, not a blur between trees, but as a being. Taller than either of them, broad-chested, fur dark with melt and ash, eyes not glowing, not wild, but steady, watching, not afraid, not angry, just there. The talker lifts his hand halfway to his sidearm, and the creature takes 1 step forward, deliberate. Snow crunches. The men flinch. Then it stops again, waiting, because the next move isn't his. The wind returns, not strong, just a slow exhale through the trees, curling around the ash circle like it recognizes the place, like it's been here before. The Bigfoot does not move, neither do they. The talker's hand is frozen just above his holster, not drawn, not lowered. His mouth opens. A sound starts. It doesn't finish. There is nothing to say. The Silent One shifts his weight, just a little. His eyes never leave the creature in the center of the circle. But his body has already decided. It's turning, leaving, running. He takes 1 step backward, then another. The talker hisses, Don't. Too late. The silent one breaks into a run. No words, no shame. Just flight. Snow kicks up behind him. He disappears into the trees like an arrow loosed by panic. Now it's only the talker, and the creature, and the ash beneath their feet. He draws the gun. Slowly, not like a man defending himself. Like a man with nothing else left. He raises it, 2 hands, sight down, breath sharp. The Bigfoot takes 1 step closer, then another. The pistol wavers. Stay back. The talker whispers. The Bigfoot does not stop. He walks like a man carrying weight in his chest, a weight he's carried for years, for lifetimes, for ancestors who burned while no one spoke their names. The talker's hands tremble. Then, bang! The shot cracks the stillness like a dropped plate in a crypt. Birds lift somewhere far off. A branch snaps. The Bigfoot doesn't flinch. The bullet strikes snow. A tree. Nothing. The smoke from the gun rises between them like a question asked too late. The talker breathes once, shallow. Then looks up. He is alone. There are no more footsteps in the snow. Not in front of him, not behind, only his own. And the circle of ash under his boots. The light comes slow. It filters through the pines like smoke in reverse, pale gold against the snow. The trees no longer creak. They stand straight now, their weight returned to them. The silence has shape again. In the clearing, the ash circle is empty. No footprints cross it. No broken branches lead away. Only snow. Only cold. Only the knowledge of what stood there. And what did not die. Somewhere far to the south, the youngest man keeps walking. He will not speak of what he saw. But the forest will follow him, its scent, its silence. A reminder. The silent one who fled will reach the edge of the woods 3 days later, too thin to speak, too hollow to lie. He will not return to the mountains. And the talker? No one will know. He vanishes into the records like so many others, name logged, never found, presumed dead in a wilderness that does not forgive. But the truth remains, not in stories, not in maps, but in the trees, where claw marks still trace bark, where bones still lie buried, where fire once kissed the earth, and something older than flame stood up and remembered what was taken. The Bigfoot walks deeper into the north that morning. No trail, no sound. Just a shape moving with the forest, not against it. And the forest breathes again, because balance, for now, is kept.